Well, hey there, bakers and pizza makers and pizza eaters. My name is Justin, and welcome to my kitchen. For those of you that don't know, I'm in Virginia Beach, and every week we do pizza movie night, and I make homemade pizzas. It's funny, the kids never fight over the pizzas, they just fight over what movie we're going to watch and whose turn it is to pick. So, the joys of having kids, I guess, right? So I wanted to take you guys through some of the steps that I follow to make my crust, and we'll go from there. So in this bowl we have 3 different kinds of flour. I use all-purpose flour. It's actually King Arthur all-purpose, some pastry flour, and also some spelt. And for those of you that don't know about spelt, it kind of gives it almost like a nutty kind of flavor. It's like another layer of flavor, I guess you can call it, to the crust. And that's why I like to use just a portion of that in my dough. And the pastry flour, I feel that softens it up a little bit, so it's not as tough, and I think it has a good chewiness to it. I tried something a little bit different this week. So what I did, I mixed all the liquid in my recipe. We started with 80-degree water, and then mixed also some the yeast. I only used half of the amount of yeast, the full amount of honey as my sweetener, the olive oil, and about half the flour, and I mixed it in the bowl and kind of made a little bit of a almost like a thicker batter. And I whisked it up for a little while, and then I poured the rest of the flour on top of that and kind of made a flour blanket on top. And then I let that starter develop for about 2 hours at room temperature. And I uncovered it, came back to it, and now we are going to mix it up. We're going to mix it in the KitchenAid only to the point where the dough starts to, until the flour starts to moisten. We're going to get the flour hydrated, and then we're going to let it sit for about 20 minutes before we actually start the kneading process. So we'll try that right now. Right now the mixer's on speed number 1, just to kind of incorporate the flour in with the liquid. And the other thing I didn't mention is I didn't add the salt yet into the recipe. We're not going to do that until we let it sit and have that little resting period before we start the kneading process. This is how you want your dough to look. It's underdeveloped at this point, so we didn't actually start kneading. We're just hydrating the flour at this point. We're going to cover it up, let it have a little rest for about 20 minutes, and then come back to it and add the salt and finish the kneading process. All right, welcome back. So the dough had its little rest. So here's what it looks like right now. It's a little bit larger than it was before. And at this point we're going to add the salt. Don't forget the salt. Salt adds flavor. It controls the yeast production. It helps to develop that crust that you're looking for in breads and in pizza. Don't forget. So we're going to add 4 teaspoons to the dough. The flour, I didn't mention the flour and the water. I almost lost count there. Don't do that either. So when I measure my flour and my water, I always use a scale. If you don't have a scale and you're serious about baking, please get a scale. Because it helps you to avoid over or under measuring your flour, especially because flour compacts. If you scoop it in there, that's not the right way to measure flour. The correct way is to either sprinkle it in the measuring scoop and then level it off, sweep it off with a knife or a spatula, or use a scale. So we're going to mix this up, and we'll see what happens here. Alright, so we finished kneading. It was in the mixer for about around 7 minutes or so on speed number 2. I kind of jog it between speed 2 and 3. This is about the consistency that you want. It's still a semi-sticky dough. Put down a little bit of all-purpose flour. Now this is a double recipe, so this should make about 10 dough balls. I portion it out to 9-ounce pieces for each one. Like I said, I don't go crazy with the flour, so a little flour on top, just so it's easier to work with. And then this is my bench knife. This is an essential tool if you're a baker. Just go like this, get some of that flour underneath. Here's my scale. I said about 9-ounce pieces here. Let's see how close I get so you can see how good I am. I don't know. That's not even close. 7.3. Oh, that's 9.05, not too bad. If the dough is sticky to work with, I would say don't add more flour, but you can add some olive oil to your hands or to the work surface. I usually try to keep one. If I'm doing this, I try to keep one clean hand, so you can touch the scale and whatever, and not have to get covered in oil at this point. They don't have to be perfect. Pizza is not an exact science. If you get it close to 9, that's all you need. These, I do a thin crust. It's like I call it a Neapolitan style, but in reality it's probably not close to Neapolitan. But it's a thin crust with like a thicker edge on the outside to hold on to. It's the kind of pizza that you have to fold in half to pick it up, otherwise all the toppings will kind of fall off on you. But, you know, I always say that if someone says you're putting too many toppings on your pizza, then maybe you should evaluate your friends. Alright, not too bad. So let's see, how many do we have? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Like I said, they're close to 9 ounces a piece. There was a couple that were a tiny bit over, but that's no big deal. So, alright, I'm gonna get this camera thing figured out one of these times. So, a little olive oil on the counter. And remember what I said about this bench knife. This is like an extension of your hand. So what I usually do, kind of go like this, tuck the dough under. I'm going to make kind of like tight little dough balls. You can do that with a scraper, or you can use your hands. Oil both hands, and you kind of want to use the edge of your hand to cup it, and bring the dough towards you to make a ball. This dough is so nice. It's so nice to work with. That's what you want. Perfect 9-ounce dough balls, and then I just lay them. We're gonna lay them here on the counter for now. That's it. Like I said, you don't want to add more flour because as you add more flour, it changes your hydration ratio of the dough, makes it too dry, and then before you know it, you've dry bread or dry pizza. Which is kind of not our goal, obviously. So hopefully this will help some people learn how to make your own dough for your pizza. I think more people should make their own dough. I'm not gonna lie, you know, in a pinch I bought the store-bought dough. It's not too bad. I mean, it's good if you're in a hurry. Some places I know that some people go to their local pizza shop and they'll sell you dough balls. It's funny, every time I make this, anytime I bake anything, I'm always modifying, always changing, always trying to do better. I think that's sometimes what people don't realize when I bake this stuff, that, you know, I think I look up a recipe in a cookbook and that's the end of it. No, it's the beginning of it, because, you know, I have to change the recipe for my oven. I have a commercial convection oven in my garage. And convection is obviously different than a conventional oven in your kitchen. So to change temperature, you have to change you know, humidity and stuff like that in the oven, and other variables you have to play with. And then some recipes you have to modify for the kind of flour that you have. Not all flour is the same. Another way to do this, you can kind of go like this and ball it up in your hand. And you just want to keep pinching it together, which is essentially what you're doing when it's upside down. This is right side up, you know, this is upside down. But typically, like how I was doing it before, you're just making a tight ball on top. You're gonna go like that, and you can finish it off on the counter. And, you know, it almost looks like I've done this once or twice before. We've been making pizzas every single Sunday. I don't eat pizza every day. I think some people think I do by the way I post things on Facebook and Instagram. I do it once a week, but we have it for lunch sometimes and whatever. Most of the time, too much pizza. If you make too much pizza, it's not always a bad thing. The cool thing about it, too, is you can make these into loaves of bread if you want to. You could do garlic knots, you could do loaves of bread, you can do whatever. So that's it. You got 10 dough balls, you can make 10 pizzas, you can make 10 loaves of bread, whatever you want to do. So I'm actually going to bag up some of these right now, bag them, put them in the freezer. And the cool thing is you can thaw them out in the fridge so they're ready for you at a moment's notice. You don't have to do this every single week. You can do it in bulk like I do. And then, like I said, individually bag it, freeze it, and then you're good to go. When it's pizza movie night for your family, you're good to go. So just make sure you oil it if you put it in the bag, so whenever you bring it out of the bag, it comes right out. That's the only recommendation I have for you as far as that goes. All right, I'm going to try to do my best here with the camera angles. So the dough has been sitting. I usually let it sit for about an hour and a half. You want to let it proof. I sprayed the pan first so it wouldn't stick. So in here we have all-purpose flour and then some cornmeal over here. You use your bench knife to lift up the dough. goes in the flour first. I usually flip it over once. And then I press down the middle. I'm gonna be careful to kind of stay away from the edge. Move it over to the cornmeal. Same thing. You can stretch it out a little bit if you want. And you can pick it up. You can either do it. There's a bunch of different ways to shape pizza. You kind of have to pick the way that works for you. You can either pick it up like this. You can kind of hold that bead of dough for the edge. You can see it's already getting nice and elastic. What I do sometimes is pick it up, use your knuckles, and kind of work your way in a circle like this. So it's nice and thin in the middle. And then I use a pizza screen like this. You can get these from Restaurant Depot is where I got these from, or a restaurant supply store, Amazon, wherever you want. And I kind of stretch it out. This is a mix to be about a 12 or 13-inch pizza. This is the kind of dough you want. You want dough that's not going to fight you. I don't roll it out with a rolling pin. Some people roll it out. So we're going to repeat the same process for the other 3 dough balls. And one thing I forgot to mention, I always spray these. Always spray your pizza screens. They say that, you know, after a while of using them, they get seasoned. I don't know. I always do, because whenever the pizza sticks in the middle, you will be in tears when it sticks to that, and then it sticks to your stone, and there's a hole in the middle of your pizza. I don't know. It's happened, and I get sad. It makes me sad. I wish I could toss the dough. I can't do that now. Maybe someday. Maybe I need some lessons. Like I said, work your way around the outside. Bada boom, bada bing. Put it on the screen. You can kind of stretch it out. I par bake, so these will actually go into the oven for 30 seconds. And then I literally just get it and kind of shake it up and down a few times to get it to unstick itself. I tried doing it up the various ways. I tried to just put the toppings on the pizza and put it right into the oven. I don't know. It usually sticks if I try to do that because it's too thin. If you have thicker dough, that'll work. But for me, it didn't really work. So it's doing what works best for you, what you prefer. Kind of have a method. I make pizzas every week. I've been doing it every single week. We make between probably 3 and about 6 pizzas every single week for the last, I don't know, year and a half. It's probably been longer than that. Probably about 2 years now. Don't poke your hands through the dough. If it happens, you can patch it back up. But ideally, you don't want pizza with a hole in the middle. Now, if you do freeze the dough, if you put the dough balls in the freezer, I usually put them in the refrigerator for a day, and then by the next day they're thawed out. And then take them out of the fridge, let them sit, like I showed you before, making the dough balls. Let them sit about for 90 minutes. Cover them up, let them come to room temperature, and warm them up for. Last one, flour. I don't cover mine totally in flour because, I don't know, unless you like that floury taste in your mouth, I don't. I use cornmeal. It helps to slide it in and out of the oven on the stone. You don't have to have a fancy oven to make a good pizza. You have to have a stone. I prefer a stone. I guess you could use a pan if you're using if you're making pan pizza. But the stone, so my stones have been in the oven. I have 2 in my oven here in my kitchen. It's a conventional oven. They've been preheating for, I guess at this point it's almost been an hour and a half. I would say no, don't preheat for less than an hour. Because the thing with the stones, they take a while to build up the heat, and then you have you want them to hold the heat. So whenever you take the pizzas out and put the other ones in, you want that heat to quickly. You want the heat to come back nice and fast. My oven's at 550 degrees right now, so I'm going to par bake these. I'm actually going to put some olive oil. We'll put some olive oil on them, and no, I'm sorry. We'll par bake them for only 30 seconds. Take them out, put some olive oil and some Italian seasoning I usually put on there, and I'll show you what they look like after that. Alright, so these are just in the oven for 30 seconds. You can see the crust bubbled up a little bit. And here's all I do, literally. Shake it a little bit, and that's it. Because I want this to release whenever I bake it. Put the toppings on and bake it. I want to be able to slide it off onto that hot stone. So it's going to bake for 3 minutes on the screen after we put the sauce and cheese and toppings on, and then another 3 minutes on the stone. So 3 minutes on the screen, 3 minutes on the stone at 550 works really well for me. All right, the pizzas are ready to go into the oven since my family is dying from starvation. This is Milano salami with pepperoni, ricotta, fresh mozzarella. This one here is roasted artichoke, fresh mozzarella, and ricotta. This one is fresh tomato, olives, ricotta, and fresh mozzarella. So I'm going to toss them in the oven for about 6 minutes. 3 minutes on the screen and 3 minutes directly on the stone. And I'll show you what they look like whenever they come out.